I'm Vinnie Politan, the subject of my investigation, the brutal murders of Keith, Jennifer, Sophia, and Jesse Caneiro, a New Jersey family living a great life in Colts Neck until this massacre. Why would anyone take out an entire family? Prosecutors say it was all about the money. Here's the story. They were brothers, business partners, and once inseparable. But prosecutors say behind the success and shared history of Keith and Paul Caneiro, resentment was quietly festering. On the morning of November 20th, 2018, two fires ignited hours apart in Monmouth County, New Jersey. One at Paul Caneiro's Ocean Township home, the other at Keith's sprawling Colts Neck mansion. Authorities allege the first fire was a calculated diversion. At the second scene, firefighters made a horrifying discovery. Keith Caneiro shot execution style in his yard. His wife, Jennifer, and their two young children, Jesse and Sophia, murdered inside the burning home. Investigators say the killings were deliberate and fueled by money. Accusations that Paul had been stealing from their businesses and was about to be cut off financially and removed from the family trust. Prosecutors claim Paul tried to destroy evidence with fire, creating the illusion that the entire Caneiro family was under attack. Paul Caneiro has pleaded not guilty and faces life without parole if convicted. Now, the first thing I thought of when I heard about this story years ago, and then the arrest of one of the brothers, is why? What's going on between these brothers? Why would one brother kill another? And I've been saying from the beginning here, this is something that prosecutors need to prove. You need to demonstrate some viable motive if you are going to allege that one brother kills his brother, kills his sister-in-law, and then stabs and kills his young niece and nephew in cold blood. Well, here's what prosecutors have. They have some evidence here. Evidence of messages between these brothers. So you get a snapshot of what was taking place, what was going on here. Remember, these brothers, also business partners in all of this. So I want you to take a listen to my producers reading the messages back and forth between Keith and Paul Caneiro leading up to the time of the murders of Keith and his entire family. Take a listen.
What the f*** are you doing? This is total b****. You have time to email me when you need money for your insurance, but you don't have time to follow up with me. I'm dealing with an issue that affects our only large client. Don't put your insurance on my card. I'll find my own employee and put my own advertisement out. I'm done with chasing you down your schedule, so off with this already. 100 emails and conversations, and you can't follow up properly on any of them. Where the is my one-page explanation from the 401k fiasco that I asked you for months ago?
I'm at the doctor's for my back in Philly. I told you yesterday I wasn't going to be around. I'll call you shortly. I've called all the people that were good and made an offer to Joshua Scott. He's getting back to me today. I'll follow up and find out if he wants the job. If not, I'll reactivate the ad. I didn't want to spend the $300 if we didn't need to.
So you risked all of our business for $300? Are you kidding me?
I'm going to give you the money back by the end of the month, as soon as my check arrives. Or I get the $10K from you. I usually get my check on the 27th.
I'll pay for this, and we are done. I don't owe you $10K. You okay with that?
No.
Then no. You didn't pay me back for that money.
Why would I not get paid for the rest of the $10K?
Paul, 5K plus 5K equals 10K.
Because the company was paying it?
I'm the company. The company wasn't paying your 5% from last year. You put that on the credit card at the last minute.
And I get 10% of the business.
Keep the 10%. But I'm done paying you anything for a salary. You are on your own.
Okay, thank you.
That's your W-2 since 2011. We are done at this point. I'm not going to do this dance with you. You aren't entitled to anything. You should have just been happy that I was trying to help you out since your accident.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I asked.
Paul, we are done. I'm not paying you moving forward. You have to find a way on your own.
I said okay. I want my 10% from the profits and or money you took from the business. All your cash payouts reduce the profits.
Off.
Ask Steve if you don't believe me. He will tell you.
Paul, we are done. I'm going to stop paying you this week.
Okay, I said that was fine.
You don't get to strong-arm me. I'm going to put that money towards paying down the debt, and I just put $150K into the business. Your kids are done with college. I need to start saving for my kids' education.
You're getting paid back for every cent. Ask Steve.
I'm not asking Steve. And if you would have just been mindful about how difficult my situation is, or even thought once how I did for you, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. I put Susan on the books. I matched your taxes for your kids. You give yourself a giant raise in 2013. Our employees didn't get raises for years while we were losing customers. Then you helped me by never helping me, making me crazy, undermining me with the people. We are done. You want me to be the villain? I'm the bad guy.
Wow. Wow. Okay, that brings us to the first question in our investigation tonight. Do the messages show motive here? Joining me, New Jersey criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Al Wunsch III, and reporter for NJ Advance Media, who's been covering this trial for NJ.com, Kevin Shea, is with us. Kevin, this to me, it sounds like some real bad blood is being spilled here. This business thing, this is bad news.
Yes. I mean, what was interesting about this was last week or the week before in the trial, they played 2 calls that Keith made to Paul where you couldn't hear Paul's side of things. You only heard Keith, and he was pretty angry then. But these are not being, read by Paul and Keith. They were read today by a detective and then your producers. But depending on, whoever's reading them, Keith's frustration and anger clearly does come through with them. I think the jury would see that. And so I'm sure that's why prosecutors played them or, had them read. But this, this does go to the motive that they've put out that these brothers were, in the months leading up to the killings, there was a lot going on professionally, personally, financially, and that Keith clearly was moving on as authorities have alleged.
All right, Al, your thoughts here about these messages between brothers/business partners.
Well, it shows that the marriage is over. It shows that the business relationship is over. It demonstrates that there is a incredible frustration, but it also shows that there's an incredible jealousy by Paul. Well, you took the money, you took stuff, you got this, you got that, I want my 10%. And it just shows to the point where Keith is like, you know what, no more. This is done. We are over. And then, Paul just answering with that kind of smart aleck, oh, okay, all right, yeah, thank you. Sorry, sorry to push you, what? But it demonstrates more than motive. It demonstrates that there was a complete break and that there was no more brotherly relationship going on between these two. It was over. It was done. He didn't want anything to do with him. Keith wanted nothing to do with Paul. Keith wanted nothing to do with Paul's family. And look what happened.
Kevin, something that really struck me in there was when Keith talked about, all right, your kids are done with college, right? Like they're grown. We've gotten them through. Yeah. And what I took away from that was, okay, they built this business together. They're taking care of their families together. Paul's family, okay, you got through that stage. I got to take care of my kids. We got to take care. These kids are young, but they're going to grow very quickly, and I need to take care of them, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, his kids were 11 and 8. I think there was some texts about Keith putting some money in their 529 accounts. So clearly he's thinking of his children, like you mentioned. The one thing I wanted to just mention real quick is that I did catch a few times in these texts where, Keith is really really mad and angry. He's using curse words. He's clearly saying more than Paul, but he also does say it a few times, we're brothers and I'll help you when I can, but we're done, so there's a lot going on with him.
Yeah, that being done, Al, is to me is powerful, right? If you want to try now put this towards the alleged motive in all this, is that Paul is looking at his life going forward. And if this is done, I'm on disability, I've got problems, he probably acknowledges the fact or understands the fact that, you know what, I'm gonna have nothing, and I have no skills because I'm doing nothing at this company. My brother's basically been propping me up. My kid brother's propping me up. I'm Fredo, he's Michael.
And the problem is that he's so engulfed with debt because he was living way above his means. And now he's looking at this morass and the swamp, and he's drowning. And he knows he's going to be drowning. And he knows that there's no way for him to get a job that's going to be able to pay for those 3 Porsches, pay for the Gamad, and all the other kind of stuff going on down the line. All right? He doesn't have that anymore. And you can see, you said Fredo. It's almost like Fredo. I don't want to see you anymore. When you're coming to see our mother, you let me know ahead of time because I don't want to be there. He's basically, he's distancing himself even from the family. Your kids got through college. I took care of them on a tax issue. We're done. Finished. He wants nothing to do with any part of that family. And it really is that break that, Michael did to Fredo.
Kevin, is there any indication, do we know that, how much these problems with the business impacted the relationship between or among the families, right? Because they have children, so there's cousins. Yeah, the ages are different, but there's sisters-in-law, all of that. Do we know if it impacted any of that?
Nothing like that has come up in the trial so far. Nothing about their personal relationships. I just wanted to also note real quick, one thing is that the defense did bring up on cross-examination that, there were 500,000 pages, I think, from Paul's phone of data. And, the detective did say that this was a selective, under cross-examination, this is a selective search on certain pieces of what was going on in these brothers' lives. I personally, I'd like to see what else was in those texts, what else was going on in that summer before the murders and leading up to it. So, maybe there's some more personal things in there. I don't know. I don't know really if the prosecutors or defense plan to read any more texts right now.
Yeah, I think it would be, if there is like a warmth outside of this, the defense has to bring that up. They've got to get that in front of this jury. Kevin Shea, New Jersey Advanced Media, NJ.com. Thank you so much. Always great. Al's going to stick around. We're going to see him a little bit later. Coming up next, why did Paul Caneiro bring the evidence to the police station?
One person who had the means, the motive, and the opportunity. And that person is sitting right here today.
Did an affair lead to double murder?
The Commonwealth's Attorney's Office has secured an indictment against Brendan Banfield for the murder of his wife, Christine, and the murder of Mr. Ryan.
Prosecutors allege the defendant planned to run away with the family's au pair. So he killed his wife and another man.
He was saying, I'm gonna kill her, I'm gonna kill her.
It's a case of sex, lies, and deadly deception.
The Au Pair Affair murder trial. Live coverage weekday mornings on Court TV.
What this case is not is some made-for-TV movie with plot twists and shocking revelations and surprise endings. Make absolutely no mistake, this is a case about the evidence and where that evidence led and who that evidence led to.
Let's talk about some of the evidence in this case, and we've been talking about it each night here on Vinnie Politan Investigates. There are two Porsches. Is that the plural of Porsche? Is it Porsches? There's 2 Porsches that are important pieces of evidence in this case. Of course, you have Paul Caneiro, the one he allegedly drove to his brother Keith's house to set the fire. We showed you the videos that prosecutors say show that Porsche. There's a second Porsche. His wife, Susan, has one. Let's take a look at that. Hers is the Cayenne. I believe it's a little bigger than his Porsche, but it's sort of the same shape and all. And it's white as well. They both were white. Well, what's interesting about Susan's Porsche is what was in the back of it. It was a backpack. And as we know in a lot of these cases we're covering here on Court TV, backpacks are generally not good for defendants because of what's inside of those backpacks. In this case, there are gun parts, a barrel, and a suppressor/silencer inside that backpack. Also described inside the backpack from one of the witnesses is a knife. So you've got a knife, you've got a gun barrel, you've got a suppressor, all in a backpack found in Susan's Porsche. Susan's Porsche. So how and where did police get and seize this backpack? What happened here? Take a listen to the prosecutor.
You remember Susan's Porsche Cayenne, the car that the defendant backed out of the driveway and that the family sat in and ultimately drove to headquarters. Well, at headquarters, that vehicle was searched. And in the back of that vehicle, in the rear cargo area, officers located a backpack. And inside of that backpack were numerous items belonging to the defendant. His bank cards, his credit cards, his laptop, pieces of his mail, his daughter's savings bonds, his passport, and also the barrel of a 9mm handgun and a gun silencer. Bullets and shell casings from 15 Willowbrook Road came from that barrel in his backpack and from the gun in his basement.
He drove it. He put the backpack in the back of the Porsche, drove it to the police station, like hand delivering the backpack, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Why? Why did Paul Caneiro bring the evidence to the police station? Joining me, former sex crimes prosecutor Stacey Honowitz, and an attorney who has represented defendants like Tiger King and Amoroso. John Phillips is with us. Stacey, have you ever had a suspect deliver the evidence to you?
No, but I wish they did. You know how they say that criminals are stupid? Well, when you ask the question, why did he drive it there? Because he's dumb. He never anticipated that they were going to search this car. This was his out. And the bottom line was, when we look at all of the evidence in this case, we realize that he's trying to show that this was a setup. That's why his house, he set his own house on fire. So when he drove this to the police department in an effort to try to speak to them to let them know that he didn't do something, he inadvertently never thought that they were going to search that vehicle that had all this important evidence.
John Phillips, this is, to me, is amazing, right? Like, everything's like, let me get all the evidence together. Let me put it in the backpack, put it in the back, and let's head over to the police station.
All the cases we've covered for all the years, Vinnie, and they still haven't learned, right? You know, I'm sitting in my home and I've got like a kid's Lego set across from me. And like, that's basically what he did. He just put together, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll just commit this, you know, multiple murder fiasco and walk around with the evidence.
So what do you think is the mindset though? Like, so how does it get in the backpack? How does it get into the back of his wife's car? Like, I'm trying to piece together if he had a plan, or do you think this is just a panic moment, John?
I think it's the latter. You know, when you think you have a perfect plan, right? You're not really subjecting yourself to objective tests, right? You think you have it. You've figured out how you're going to do this, fire the whole thing, and either something changed at the last minute, or there was a plan to ditch it. But, you know, either way, oops.
Yeah. You know, Stacey, sometimes, you know, through the years, I've heard like this type, when they're dealt a hand like this, what I've heard defense attorneys say is, if he was going to kill them, why would he put the evidence in the backpack and drive it to the police station? Obviously, he didn't do it, because if he did, there's no way he would do that.
Well, that is a wonderful argument, and you do hear that quite often. The fact of the matter is, though, you have to tie up the totality of the circumstances. That evidence that he drove there happens to match up to the evidence that is part and parcel of this murder. So while you might want to say that, and that is a good hook for the jurors to think to themselves, well, yeah, that is really good. That is a good point. It's the prosecutor to get back up and say, well, it's a coincidental that everything that was found in that back seat, in that backpack, matches the evidence that's there. He's stupid. He thought he was going to get away with it, or he thought he was going to ditch it, and he never thought they were going to search her vehicle.
Yeah. I always found the best response to that argument is, hey, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you know, we don't catch the smart ones.
Well, I said they're dumb.
Because the defense always sets it up like everyone is going to be the perfect criminal and commit the perfect crime, and they would never make a mistake. But if they don't make a mistake, they don't get caught, they don't get arrested, they don't get charged. The ones that get caught and charged are the ones that obviously made mistakes, right?
They get caught red-handed.
And the ones that think that they're smarter than everybody else. I mean, when you're in that mindset and you're trying to set this whole thing up, you really have this feeling of, I'm smarter than everybody else. You'll see, I'll be able to get away with it. And I think that's what we have in this case.
Does he or any member of his family have to testify to explain any of this stuff? John?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, you never, as a criminal defense side, want anybody waiving the Fifth Amendment, dealing with all of the intricacies here. This is just great fodder for prosecutors. But I think you've got to have some credibility restored in this case to chip away at reasonable doubt. You know, particularly when you've got the prosecutor saying, look, this isn't some murder mystery you're going to have to figure out. In fact, you know, I use my kids' markers. Like, we got you red-handed.
Bingo. John Phillips, Stacey Honowitz, great to have you both with us. Thank you so much. All right, still to come. Did Paul Caneiro attempt to destroy the genes? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murders of Keith Caneiro, his wife, and his children, murdered with a gun and a knife. A brutal, bloody ending for this New Jersey family. And prosecutors say it was Keith Caneiro's own brother who did it. Here's the story. The Caneiro case is not just a murder trial. It is a portrait of a family imploding under financial pressure and alleged betrayal. Prosecutors say Paul Caneiro, once dependent on his younger brother Keith, watched his world unravel as Keith moved to cut him out of their businesses, salary, and trust. According to court filings, Keith believed Paul had been siphoning tens of thousands of dollars, including money earmarked for his children's futures. Days later, Keith, his wife Jennifer, and their children were dead. Authorities allege Paul carefully staged two fires, one at his own home before dawn, another at Keith's house, to mask the crime and mislead investigators. Surveillance evidence, forensic findings, and ballistic evidence form the backbone of the state's case. The defense insists Paul Caneiro is innocent and has waited years for his chance to clear his name. Now, after more than 7 years, a jury will decide whether jealousy and money led to one of New Jersey's most brutal family massacres. So the killer in this case, or killers, right? A gun and a knife was used. You use a gun, okay, there's could be some evidence found on the killer themselves. But if you use a knife, that's where things get much more messy, to say the least. You're stabbing and killing someone multiple times. There's blood, there's different types of blood staining that you're going to have, and it could end up on you if you are the killer. Prosecutors say that happened in this case, and that there was evidence found on clothing belonging to Paul Caneiro. Take a listen.
There was this pile of charred items and articles all congealed together that was located right beneath the window well where the fire was started in the defendant's basement. In that pile was a pair of men's jeans with blood staining in multiple areas. Folded up in those jeans were 6 black nitrile gloves and 1 live round of ammunition. Same type of ammunition and head stamp that was found at 15 Willowbrook Road. Those jeans and those gloves, as well as numerous other items, were sent out for DNA testing. You are going to have the opportunity to hear from the forensic DNA scientists who performed that testing. And they are going to tell you about their conclusions and findings for each and every piece of evidence that they tested. And what you're going to learn is that those findings, those results, included a finding that these sources of DNA located on multiple areas of those bloody jeans in the defendant's basement came from none other than his niece, Sophia Caneiro, and in one area from his nephew, Jesse Caneiro. You're also going to learn that Sophia Caneiro's DNA was on some of those black nitrile gloves as well as other items in that pile.
Okay, so let's talk about these jeans that are found and how they're found. She described them as charred. They were near the window where the fire was started. Let's take a look at the image that the jury saw, okay? You look at this image, it's not 100% clear. So what I want to do is make it a little clearer for you as to where the jeans are that you're looking at. There are the jeans that prosecutors say contain the DNA that would link Paul Caneiro to his niece and nephew. Right there, the samples are taken from the jeans. So, she mentioned again, some of the stuff in that pile was congealed and charred, which brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, did Paul Caneiro attempt to destroy the jeans? Was that the plan? Does that seem like it was the alleged plan here? Joining me, retired police detective, forensic educator, Dr. Mike McCutcheon, and former DEA Senior Special Agent David Katz. Great to have you both here. All right, Dr. McCutcheon, let's begin with you here. I want to put that picture back up when we have an opportunity of the pile where the jeans were found. What does it tell you? The way the jeans were found, where they were found, near the window, some charring in some of the items in the area where that fire was set. What does it tell you?
So it tells me your question is, did Paul attempt to destroy the jeans? I think so. Whenever you have to move evidence, it's a risk. So if he took these items that can link him to the crime, if he's going to have to move those, he's going to have to take those, put them in his car, he's going to wear them, he's going to have to bring them somewhere else, there is danger in moving those items. Something strange can happen. He could get pulled over by the police. Any number of things could interfere with him if he has to move those items. So his safest bet, if he's lighting the house on fire and he commits that arson, his thinking is that the temperature is going to be so hot it's going to burn all of the evidence. And sometimes fires don't do that, which in this situation is what happened. But I absolutely think that he wanted to destroy them, which is why he put them near the beginning of the fire. And looking at the pictures that are going through here, you see that the whole house was not engulfed. So it didn't destroy all of the evidence. But moving evidence, if you don't have to move evidence, people don't, because it's dangerous and you may get caught.
David Cass, what are your thoughts here about the actions or alleged actions of Paul Caneiro and the fact that these jeans are found in his basement? He knows people are going to respond to his house, right? The thing's on fire.
Yeah, these are what are known in the trade as clues. Do you like movies? Remember the movie Body Heat? It was back in the early 1980s. Great. William Hurt and Mickey Rourke. And Mickey played a great character. He said something like, you know, every time you commit a crime, there's like a million ways where you could screw up. If you're a genius and you ain't a genius, okay, that is, I think that explains a lot. You know, as the detective said, fire does not behave the way people think. Heat rises, and often you start a fire, you think it's going to engulf everything. Like if you start it low, well, everything you placed at the base of the fire is going to go. No, the fire is racing upwards, looking for oxygen. So I think I agree completely. I think the attempt was to destroy the genes, and it didn't work out.
And, you know, Mike, when I think about the scene at his house, right? Because there's two fires. One, his brother's house, yep. No one discovers the fire because everyone in the family's dead, right? It's a mansion, 10 acres, so it's difficult for people to realize it's on fire. But a lot was destroyed inside that home. His home, not so much. And I'm wondering, in his mind, did he want to destroy his whole house? Did he understand the risk? Did he want to make sure that his family got out okay? Did he not want all his belongings destroyed? What do you think the mentality was in that arson?
It's an interesting point because he is clearly trying to cover up his crime. He wants to destroy this evidence, but at the same time, he also wants to perhaps, like you said, safeguard his home. He can't wait too long, so he has to, they're going to ask, well, why didn't you call 911 when you noticed your house was on fire? So he can't wait too long because that would look suspicious. So there's a lot of different pieces, a lot of mental game that he has to play here. What is the appropriate amount of time to wait where I can, I'll say, safely have a fire at my house without anybody of my family getting injured, safeguard my house? But I also want to make sure that it burns long enough to destroy the evidence, which is why it was placed where the fire began. He didn't put it up in his bedroom. He put it where the fire began because he thought that that is where the evidence was going to be destroyed, and it wasn't. But I think he was trying to safeguard some of his items, and he had to make it look real. And how do you do that? You call 911 when your house is on fire.
David Katz, you know, you try to understand criminals, and obviously you can't. You can't put yourself into their mindset. But at the same token, there was obviously some planning in all of this. But the level of planning to me seems almost like it's an emotional kind of thrown together plan versus like taking a moment to really try to think this thing through.
Well, yeah, imagine, put aside the fact that this is a nefarious deed. You're still overwhelmed by adrenaline. You're not thinking clearly. Your cognitive ability and perception is impacted negatively. You're not going to make the right decisions, the best decisions. And with respect to lighting his house, or setting the fire at his house, if he in fact did, there was some suggestion that he was trying to plant the seed that both brothers were targeted for some other reason by a third party. So I think that played into the idea that he was trying to hatch to put suspicion elsewhere. I mean, why would you set fire to your own house if you weren't the target? That type thing. But he didn't do a good job, and I think he's paying the price for it.
And Dr. Mike McCutcheon, finally, when you're going to a scene, and it's a crime scene, but it's also a fire scene, what are some of the challenges in gathering evidence?
Well, there's two. The one is documenting, as you can see in the photos that you're showing, to try to get contrast with your camera, because the scenes are very dark, because it's all black. To try to get your camera to pick up evidence is very difficult. And then the second is the fires are very destructive. And luckily they were able to get evidence in this. But if that fire wasn't stopped in time, that evidence would have been destroyed, and it's very difficult to recover burned evidence unless it's like shell casings or something like that. I mean, a fire can burn up to 1,400 degrees. I mean, that's what they cremate bodies at, is about 1,500 degrees or something. So the heat is unbelievable in a fully engulfed house fire, for sure.
All right, Dr. Mike McCutcheon, great to see you. David Katz is going to stick around. Coming up next, what would have happened if Keith didn't go outside?
The defendant pointed that loaded handgun at his brother, and he pulled the trigger 6 times. 5 of those shots hit Keith.
What are you reporting?
Fire. The tragic murder of Keith Caneiro and his entire family.
The defendant repeatedly shot and killed his brother and then moved to murder the rest of the family inside the home.
Their sprawling mansion set on fire.
Paul and Keith were not only brothers, but business partners.
This one is the most brutal case that I've seen in my experience here.
The Mansion Murders Trial. Live coverage continues Tuesday at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
When he arrived, he turned off the generator to their home, and then he cut the power to the house from the outside by removing the electrical meter. And then he waited in the dark, waited in the shadows, waited for his brother Keith to come outside.
We always wondered from the beginning of this case, because very little information was made public during the course of 7 years, amazingly. How did Paul Caneiro get Keith, his brother, to come outside? Because we knew Keith was shot and killed outside of the mansion on the yard. And what the allegation is that Paul Caneiro snuck over to the house, cut the power and cut the generator, turned them off. Well, what also happened in those moments, and this is another surprising fact, is that Keith, when this is happening in the middle of the night, is texting his brother Paul about it. They read the text messages in court. Take a listen.
What is the time there?
11/20/2018, 3:14:58 a.m. UTC -5. My power is totally out at home. Total AC failure. At 11/20/2018, 3:15:01 a.m. UTC -5, and it's coming from Keith Caneiro.
And what does the content of that message say?
I used the manual switch in the basement, but nothing is working. 11/20/2018, 3:17:59 a.m. UTC -5 from Keith Caneiro, and the message was, I'm not even sure what to do. 11/20/2018, 3:13 a.m. UTC -5 from Keith Caneiro. The generator says AC failure. Going outside to see if the generator is in the right mode.
Going outside. He even gave his brother a heads up. I'm going outside. So now Paul is prepared and knows exactly what's happening as it is happening. But I was wondering, the power goes out. What if it didn't play out this way? And that's the next question, final question this hour in our investigation. What would have happened if Keith didn't go outside? Instead, just, power's out. I'll take care of it in the morning. I'll call the guy in the morning about it. Still with me, New Jersey criminal defense attorney Al Wunsch III and former DEA special agent David Katz. All right, what do you think happens here? I'll start with you, David. What do you think happens under this scenario? Prosecutors have laid out that Paul's cutting the power. If Keith just decides to sleep in and stay inside of his mansion?
Well, that's really tough to say. We always say if you suspect a break-in or some intruder, don't go searching for the intruder. Arm yourself, put yourself and your family in a secure location, call 911. But this isn't that scenario. This is an incident where the power goes out. you have a backup generator, and the backup generator isn't working. So what's the logical step? If you're not suspecting any foul play, you go outside, turn the generator on. So what he would have done if Keith didn't step outside? I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios I could come up with. I don't think he breaks anything. He knocks on the door, and then I'm here to help, type of thing, and then he commits the assault. But it's hard to say. But I mean, you think about it, that is textbook premeditation. I mean, considering the fact that Keith is texting him, knowing that his brother would possibly have some input with respect to what he should do next to get the power back on. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Al, how do you think it plays out? What do you think Paul would allegedly do, right? Because he said he didn't do it, if his brother did not go outside and stayed behind the locked doors of that mansion?
I think he bangs on the door. I think he comes up there and he goes, guess what? Something happened in my house. Same thing. I got this call. I got a threat. They're after us for some reason or whatever. Open up the door. He opens up the door, and then the slaughter begins. I think that he sets it up in such a way that he says, I'm here to help you. He gets the text messages, and oh my God, I have the same thing going on. And then I get a phone call saying, we're going to take you out. Okay, that gets me to open up the door, and then he fires, and then he goes inside and kills the rest of the family.
David, what
to do something about. So,
David, what does your gut tell you about this? We've been talking about this on the show. What the intent of the killer here? Do you think the intent was to take out the whole family, or is there witnesses now that he has to take out after killing his brother?
Oh, that's tough to say. I mean, if you consider what kind of brutality had to take place with respect to the stabbing, I mean, that's just, especially the children with whom you've had a relationship. I mean, that's just, I'll put it to you this way. It would take a lot to convince me that was part of the plan, but certainly could be. It is possible on the alternative that either the wife or the kids saw what happened, saw the shooting, and now he has no choice. Now he has to kill the rest of the family. So I can't say what was in his mind, but I mean, if you consider the fact that he started with the handgun and moved to transition to the knife, that's I can't explain that, because as your prior segment noted, up close and personal, you are. I mean, there's no offset. You are taking someone's life in the most brutal fashion, especially the children. So that I kind of have a hard time even suspecting that this guy would go to that length with premeditation, but I could be wrong.
We have about 15 seconds, Al. I'll give you the final word here on what you think.
He had to take the kids out. He needed the money. I mean, just like Richard III, you have to execute the young princes in order to be able to take the crown. So therefore, they were in his way, and they were in the they were going to keep him from the fortune. They all had to go.
Yeah, what a brutal. Why stab him?
Yeah. We're out of time. David Katz, Al Wunsch, great to have you both here. Thanks so much. All right. The alleged plan was clear. Paul knew his financial future was up in the air. He was on disability and seemingly not really working very hard, but living a lifestyle above his means. Now, if Paul did this, it is really about as low as you can go in terms of values. Money and lifestyle over family, murdering children so you can lease a Porsche. I can't imagine the jury wanting to give him a break if they believe he's responsible. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.